Hi, and welcome to A Place to Call Home. It's our weekly show where we talk about everything. I'm Portia Evans. We have a very special show today. It's sort of a reunion. I have the left blogger and the right blogger. Mr. Stephen Handwork, Mr. Warren Cottle, we're here to talk politics, of course.
Shocking.
It's that season and that time, and I don't know. I just wanted to have both these guys who are my friends in studio with me today. I respect both of them. I respect their opinions on a lot of things, and so we're here to have the conversation. So I'd like to welcome you guys to the show today.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Portia.
having us.
It's good to have you here. Of course, your nominee is Donald Trump, and the Democrat nominee is Hillary Clinton, and I am just wondering, guys, about the direction of the country. Now, there are a lot of things going on. Right now, we've got the divorce with Britain and their divorce from the European Union and all of that going on, and I don't know how that's going to resonate here in the United States, but we've got so many issues that we are concerned about, and I don't know. Let's start with you, Mr. Cottle, and why you're so passionate for your candidate.
Well, first of all, I'm just passionate about this country, the United States of America, that I dearly love so much, and that you have hit the nail on the head when you said we have so many problems in this country. We have problems around the world. And this is one of the most interesting election years that I have ever seen. And of course, being older than you two, I'm the adult supervision in the room. But I said early on that this was really strange year because that normally you have the people behind the scenes pulling the strings, and that nobody really knows who they are. It's just the big money. And everybody knows they're there, but they never really came out of the woodwork. This year, all at once, they were making it known as to who they were, what they were doing, how they were doing it, and why they were doing it. When they came out and just put together that full throttle effort against Donald Trump, and they just, what did they raise? $40 million, $100 million or something? They ran like $40 million to run negative ads against him in favor of Jeb Bush, and made it well known this is what we're doing, and on and on and on. And then that didn't pan out, so then they got Marco Rubio, did the same thing with him. He crashed and burned. Then on the other side, you had this unknown old man who was going to come in there and going to run against the anointed one, Clinton Jr. I liked her husband, by the way. My sister-in-law said he was just a Republican, and he was pretty close to it. But anyway, Bernie Sanders comes from nowhere, and the establishment is totally after him. And that when you sit there and look at it, there's a lot of frustration in this country, a lot of frustration around the world. And I think that the deal with England getting out of the EU, it basically was one of those things. And we were the first people who revolted against our owners, so to speak, in the colonies, when we said, we've had enough. We got taxation without representation. We want to be our own boss. We want some freedom, so we're through. And it's kind of what England did the other day. They got a president of the EU that they don't even vote for. Everything, all of their rules and such stuff are being made by some committees over across the English Channel. And, I know that to back of a lot of them's mind, they thought, it hasn't been that long ago, 70 years, when there was a lot of other decisions that were made over there across the English Channel and said, we're going to control you. And they said enough's enough. So anyway, we're coming down to the home stretch now. We got the presumptive nominees. Portia call them the nominees. They're not nominees yet.
Well,
Yeah,
Bernie
us
Sanders,
political insiders have to always make that clarity.
okay.
Bernie Sanders' group now, they've just filed almost a wrongful death lawsuit, I understand, against the Stevens party and the Portia's party about fraud and how they stole the election. So I'm through for right now.
Okay, Stephen.
All right. Well, look, I think that this is really exciting times. Thank you again for having us on here. It is really cool to kind of be reunited with my good friend Warren. Look, I'm excited about this year. I think that there has been a lot of interest. Looking at, I'll start first with the Republican side. It was interesting it was kind of like a bad Game of Thrones episode where literally one person would go up to fight the big monster, Donald Trump, only to be slayed, and then the next person would run up and take the next fight, which was hysterical. I that to me was quite good entertainment, but more than that, as kind of a student of politics and kind of government and how these things work, and again, being a big and proud American for what we do in our country, it was so odd to watch Donald Trump go through this process because none of the normal rules applied. None of the normal rules applied. When something that you would think would actually be the death knell for a candidate, something that would completely do them in, whether it's a Howard Dean screaming yeah or something like that would happen with Trump, but it never took him down. It never took him down, and in many cases it only made him stronger. And it was really weird to keep an eye out. On our side, look, I think the world of Senator Sanders. I think that he did us a huge favor by being so aggressive in this campaign and talking about the things that so many times get glossed over in a campaign, talking about wage equality, talking about fairness for the working men and women of this country, talking about standing up and actually doing something for us rather than spending so much money in all these foreign lands that we will never see because our citizens can't afford to ever travel. Those were important things in the campaign that I think might have been glossed over if Bernie Sanders was in the race. So we owe Senator Sanders a huge debt of gratitude. It does appear now that we have a nominee. It does appear time that more than anything, the folks on my side of the aisle, my side of the world, are saying we have to do everything we can to stop Donald Trump because he would be a disaster for our country.
Well, people go into, especially presidential elections, looking and assuming that the person that is elected will fix a lot of things. And we all know that that's not the way it works, that most presidents are controlled by Congress. And so that's why it's very, very important that we always push, vote, vote, vote.
Yeah.
Vote. Vote, vote, vote.
What is that, Warren, that they used to always say, you get the government you deserve?
In Louisiana, it was vote often and vote early and often.
Right.
And,
But it is important. Portia brings up a really good point. At the end of the day, we're only an inch removed from the generations of the people that came before us, that fought and died for the right to vote, that fought and died for the right to have their views expressed, that fought and died for the right to even express their views. So, we do owe it to our community. We do owe it to the folks that came before us to actually educate ourselves first, and then go and exercise that right to vote. That far too many people take for granted. Right now we're looking at what turnout's going to be. If our projections hold, and I don't know what you guys are seeing on your side, but if things go as planned, we're probably going to have about 65% turnout this November.
Well, Stephen's talking about having the electorate be educated before they vote. He is going to get thrown out of the Democratic Party for making that statement. But look, here's the one thing I want to say about it. He made a statement that Donald Trump would be disastrous for the nation, and I just absolutely and categorically disagree with that. Here's the thing that I see, and I think this has become so prevalent around the world, is that we have mixed up the government from the nation. When we start talking about, we start talking about interaction between countries and whatever, we start talking about these different countries, so many times that the people in power, they don't look at a nation as being a group of people. They look at a nation as being the government in that nation. I went to Russia a few times, about 15 years ago, and I was in a meeting and talking to some of those people, and I said, when it came down to it, both of us really, really got lied to by our governments. I said, we were told that you guys were sitting over here just waiting for the opportunity to blow us into obliteration with a nuclear weapon, that you were going to start a nuclear war at any time, and that you were completely mean, you were completely dishonest, and that the women were completely ugly. And they laughed, because there are really some gorgeous women in Russia, the old Soviet Union. And I said, on the other hand, I'm sure you were told basically the exact same thing about us. And then when you get over there, and I've gone many, many places around the world over my lifetime, and I've always been, really intrigued by the fact that the people are basically humans wherever you go. They've got the same problems as everywhere else. But when we sit and look at it, the way that the government doesn't look at those people as people, they just simply look at their interaction between governments. And I think that, that you look at where we stand today, how many trillions of dollars have we spent around the world trying to buy friendship, prop up dictators, and all of that, and we have literally sent tens of millions of jobs out of this country. Tens of millions of jobs. The factories have closed, businesses have closed all over this country, and people are sitting there trying, the government, Stevens Group and them try to blame the corporations for doing it, whenever the big government has sat there and has basically paved the way for them, paid for them to go over there, created these rules and regulations that push them over there, and then they don't want to sit and admit it. They said, well, but what's he going to do? And one of the things he's going to do, talking about my man, the Donald, he knows something about having people working inside this country. He knows something about building businesses. And, I just think he's a breath of fresh air.
Like Trump University and stuff like that.
He's a breath of something, Warren. I'll give you that. But here's the thing. I mean, Donald Trump knows something about creating some jobs. After all, his ties are made in China. Okay? He has other products that are made in Mexico. He knows about outsourcing jobs.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things that he's fond of saying, and it seems to be a quick refrain that he has in the past few days, is that that America, that the United States, actually has the highest tax rate. Believe him. Well, we actually don't have the highest tax rate. Out of the 31 industrialized nations, okay, out of the 31, there are only 6 that have a lower tax rate than we do. There are only 6. So at the end of the day, he's lying to the American people. He's perpetuating these myths. Now he's saying that if Hillary Clinton is elected as president, that we will all be afraid to leave our homes. Okay? That fear-mongering is just, I think that, now granted, you don't need to listen to me because the prognostications of all the things that I've said before that would take Donald Trump down have been wrong. But, now he's out there saying these things. I just don't think the American people elect a president on fear. I think they elect him on hope. I think that they elect them on aspirations. I think they elect them on the dreams of their children. That's what I think that we elect a president on. And that's what I'm fearful of, that the conversation and the election is going to take a really bad turn for the worse when it comes to that.
Well, the one thing I agree with you on that is that we are going to elect the next president, I hope, based on our aspirations and what we want to see happen. And a lot of what we want to see happen is a change from what we have seen happen, not just over the last 8 years, but over the last 20, 25 years. When you sit there and you see so many of the problems that we have today that need to be addressed, that these changes need to be put into place. And I mean, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution.
And I'm not.
Believe me that Hillary Clinton has been and is a part of the problem.
Well, that would be your opinion. But anyway, I'm not feeling your candidate's slogan, we're going to make America great again. What's the slogan?
Make America great again.
We're going to make America great again. We're already a great country. we're already a great country. Plus, I disagree with your candidate about, he's softening on some things now. First, he didn't want any Muslims in the country.
That's not right.
He wants to build a wall for the.
Just like Hillary's building a wall around the convention in Philadelphia. Go ahead to keep the other side out, to keep the undesirables out. Go ahead, next.
Wants to build a wall.
But it's not going to be as tall as the wall around the Vatican.
All right.
Well,
next. He ain't gonna want no black people nowhere. I mean, that's just how I'm feeling.
Now you have just stooped to the low. Now you have gone below low.
That's just how I'm feeling. Well, what's next? I'm just kind of saying, what's next?
Look, let's take one thing first, if we may. The part about not wanting any Muslims in here. What he said was we need to shut down the immigration until we can vet people coming in. Let's go back, and I have said this before over and over and over again. We can take some playbooks out of take some pages out of some Democrat playbooks. You know, the Republicans came out with this thing about the energy crisis. Drill here, drill now, drill everywhere, drill baby drill, and the Democrats just screamed and hollered about it. Remember that? Well, if you went back to about 1978 or 79, they created the Department of Energy under Jimmy Carter. The official policy of the Department of Energy was that the United States would produce its last barrel of oil in 1984. Their policy were put taxes into place, drill here, drill now, drill everywhere. And you know, we drilled our way out of that crisis. And so in 1979, they passed a bill through Congress that stopped immigration from people coming in here from Iran because they were Muslims, because it was part of the Islamic Revolution in Iran. We deported something like 7,000 or 17,000, whatever it was, Iranians, strictly because of what? Because of their religion, because of where they came from. And now you're acting like that's never happened in this country
But
before.
we also had Japanese internment camps, okay? We also had slavery, okay? Just because it happened in the past doesn't mean it's great and we should bring back a revival
I agree
of it.
wholeheartedly. And both of those things you allude to was given to us by Democrats and soft by Republicans.
Oh,
Next.
wow. Oh,
Next.
Wow. Wow.
Well,
So one of the things that I think is important to say, and I think important for us to have a conversation about is, and I don't think that anybody can argue with this, okay? Our nation right now is being crushed by student debt.
right.
Okay? I mean, I think any observer can take a look at what's currently going on, and there has been a monumental shift, especially in the last decade, but even more so in the last 4 years, of most colleges were funded greatly by the states. Okay, and
That's
students
not
only took
happening
on
anymore.
a portion of it. Now it's completely flipped. Students are taking on the majority of it, and that crushing debt we're starting to see have ripple effects into our economy. That economic approach is happening. That kids are now not leaving their house; they're staying home with mom and dad. They're not able to purchase a car. They're not able to purchase a house. They're not able to start a family, and that is having a crushing effect on our economy. I don't see Trump and the Republicans having an answer to that other than, all taxes are bad and we shouldn't be funding universities. On our side, we have a multitude of different answers and solutions, most of which revolve around the fact of basic college education somehow being free.
Let me answer that. First of all, the thing that I absolutely agree with is about the student debt and how that the students are being shafted in education, from basically secondary education on through college and whatever. George Will had a great article one time, or he made a little talk about how that he would like to see a commencement address where the guy gets up there and says, "You're now graduating from this institution of higher learning. I'm sorry that you did not get an education while you were here for 6 years. And you're leaving here, you're going to have a mortgage, but with no house."
Right.
And he goes on and on and on. Student debt is higher than credit card debt in this country.
By the way, who's George Will supporting for president?
George Will is
not supporting Trump.
He's not supporting Trump. Okay. And that George Will is also an atheist with a small a. That's what he says. Yes. But anyway. George Will has been a pretty solid thinking person up until recently.
Up until he
Up
stopped
until-
Yeah,
supporting.
Got it.
but he made some very good points. And this is the one thing I'm going to give Elizabeth Warren credit for on this too, is that she came out and said that, you know, we need to revamp the student loan deal. And what happened with the student loan thing is that universities control public education. And it is an industry, and it is a huge industry. And after World War II, we had a GI Bill, and you had all these guys that came back from World War II, and they were being educated, and the classrooms were overflowing, and so they built all these buildings, and they hired all these people to teach them, and then all at once that group got out of school, and there weren't a lot of people to take their place. And then we went on, and the Vietnam War started later on, and you had the draft, so it pushed all these kids back into school. So many of them flooded into the South because we had open admissions here, unlike what they had in the New England states and the Midwestern states that came down here to get cheap education. So the Southerners said, to hell with that. You know, you Yankees not coming down here to do that, so we're going to create something called out-of-state tuition.
Right.
And so they did. And then a few years later, when the draft ended, all at once it was just like the fog lifting. The students started to evaporate. And they needed some more students. So what did they do? First place they went overseas and started bringing in all these foreigners, because these foreign countries had these deals where they would pay your way, pay their people's way wherever they could go to college. They'd pay for it as long as you went back home for 5 years or whatever. Most of them had
Right.
that. And foreigners flooded all these schools. So then finally they were getting ripped off, and that they decided they weren't learning enough. So a lot of them quit coming. Countries couldn't afford it. So then they started going to other places. And the main place they started going, Portia Evans, was to the inner cities. And they started telling so many of these minority students, if you'll come to college, if you'll come to the university, you can be anything you want to be. You can be engineers, you can be astronauts, you can be doctors, you can be attorneys. You know, they never stopped to tell them that you've got such a poor education in this school that you coming out of here you can't read and write, but we're going to bring you over there, we're going to give you grants, we're going to give you this. And they said, oh, and by the way, we're going to give you student loans. And
You're talking about Trump University, right?
Yeah,
I'm talking
is
about state-
Because that's what it sounds like. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm talking
I thought that was
state
all about Trump
universities, and
University.
Trump University probably did some of the same
Okay.
thing, but I'm
Yes, they
talking
did.
about across the board they did that.
I
And
got
all
you.
at once you had these kids coming out of there and they didn't have a job, they didn't have any skills, and they had all this debt, and so some of their people said, file bankruptcy.
The question is, who's going to fix it?
Right.
Now we got 2 minutes left. So
Oh.
Yeah.
I want to say, you go first, Stephen.
Yeah. So look, I think that it's incredibly important for the viewers of your show. And really, I want to thank you for the service that you do in letting the community know. I also think the world of AOC and the service that we have here, because we don't have this all over the state. So Acadiana is incredibly lucky to have AOC. But that being said, it is about solutions. It's about who most closely reflects what you would like to see our country doing. And I think that that's what voters are going to be looking at. And I hope folks are paying attention. I hope they get involved, no matter if you're on the right side, our side, or on the Republican side. We hope that you get involved and actually pay attention, because at the end of the day, we're going to get the government that we deserve.
I wholeheartedly
30
agree.
seconds.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Go out and vote and think about which direction you want this country to go in, and that we've got some serious challenges we've got to meet, and we need some people who are going to be problem solvers, not problem makers. And all you got to do is look back and think, you know, do we want 8 more years of what we had under George W. Bush and then under Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton? Do you want Hillary Clinton to be the commander-in-chief of this country?
Yes,
Yes.
I do.
I do.
And
Anyway,
y'all are sick. With that, I yield.
but anyway, I really thank you guys for coming on today. It's certainly been a reunion, I think, you know, and I urge you to do the blogs again. You are both back in the area. I mean, I'm hoping that we can do the blogs again. Left blogger, right blogger, Warren Cockle, Stephen Handwork, and thank you so much for coming on, sharing your opinions. We respect both of you, and we'll see you again
Thank
next
you.
time. I'm Portia Evans for A Place to Call Home. Bye-bye.